Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Derek and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 105. Why do we do this to ourselves? Of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host. I just got back from Ohio like 3 hours ago, maybe. And with me, as always, is on location.
I don't know that I would say on location. On location implies I'm still back in Ohio, but no.
No, you're in Washington, D.C. You're in our nation's capital, the illustrious seat of democracy.
Not the description I would use. It was very beautiful. I am hoping while I'm here to go to the Lincoln Memorial and take a picture for Stark because he said he really wanted one. So I'm going to try to make that happen. I mean, we drove past it on the way to my hotel. But yes, I'm in Washington, D.C. And that is because we did the event in Ohio, but I have a work conference this week. And so I cast it on Sunday. And then when we were done, I drove all the way home, went to sleep, woke up and packed again, and then immediately left. But because I work for the state government, they don't like to pay like anything above what the bare minimum is. So instead of direct flights or comfortable flights or things like that, my flight path to get to where I am today is that I went from Lansing to Detroit to Atlanta to DC. Because when I left this morning, I think I messaged Logan, or maybe he just knew I was leaving in the morning. But then when he was like, "Hey, are we good for tonight?" I said, "As long as I don't have any delays." And he was like, "What do you mean? I thought you were in DC already." No, that would be.
I figured that when you say I am leaving for DC in the morning, that I knew you were flying, that it wouldn't be the same amount of time as driving to DC from Lansing.
That is a safe assumption, and yet
that is not what happened.
That is not what happened.
At any rate, so yes, we were both present, if nothing else, at the Realm Rumble in I'm not gonna say illustrious for this place, in Columbus, Ohio, this past weekend. And I was impersonating someone who can play the game, which is all I can say for the playing I did. It was not good at all. It's very funny that my round one opponent was Raj, who wound up finishing second in the 20K event. And the win was because I artivored to get some extra block, knowing that a max V was coming from the last cards in his deck. And the only thing that had to happen is to not draw Reckless Swing. And I drew Reckless Swing. Yeah. And I died. So,
well, unfortunately, that card can be a bit reckless.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
But the top 8 was so first off, what a fucking event. I mean,
it was a good event.
Yeah. They did this right in every way I can possibly imagine. Everybody I talked to, even the ones that were losing like me, were having a good time. They were enjoying themselves. The vibe in the room was always a nice little buzz the entire time. It was truly a spectacle. We wax poetic about the Realm on here a lot because we are closely tied to them in a lot of ways. We're complete and utter fucking shills for them. And they are, they employ Charmer on occasion, and sometimes even me, which makes no sense. But the truth of the matter is they put on world-class events no matter what they're doing. They are always trying to improve. They're always trying to create the best event for the player, which is vitally important. And they just knocked another one out of the park. This was a fantastic weekend. I didn't speak to a single person that said, yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, it wasn't, I didn't have a good time. Everybody I talked to had a good time. And I talked to a lot of people because it was a pretty full room in a lot of places, and it was. I think that on the LSS the LSS write up, they called it a chaotic bloodbath of a fresh meta, which I think was about as good as you can get as far as a description goes.
Yeah,
because it was a chaotic bloodbath.
it was absolutely a chaotic bloodbath of a fresh meta, but in all of the best ways, because not only did we see a lot of hero diversity, but one of the things that I mentioned at least once on the broadcast and also in conversations I was having with people through the weekend is that this weekend highlights, in my opinion, what is best about Flesh and Blood. We had Worlds, obviously, and we also had both Lexi and Icelander, Living Legend recently. So it was a very fresh meta with not a lot of time to prepare. So a lot of people either went to comfort picks or at least heroes that they've put a lot of time into recently. So like, I wouldn't say that Yuki, for example, would likely describe Bolton as a comfort pick, but I know that she's put time on Bolton, right? So everybody went with, some sort of choice that really spoke to them, and then they did well on them, right? And so that's what I love about Flesh and Blood is that it, one, rewards specialists, and two, also, again, will reward good players for being good players, right? It's not just that it was a specialist, but it's also the top 8 was filled to the brim with amazing players, and that's for the 20K. And then it's a
much less the
repeat.
10K.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a rinse and repeat for the 10K, where you're still like the finals are literally Michael Feng, one of the best players in the world, against Levi Rauch, arguably the most famous
Best Azalea,
right? Like, so when you talk about a specialist meta and a meta that favors good players, it writes itself.
Yeah, let's take a quick tour through this top 8 because this is a murderer's row in the 20K. We had Peter Budensick, Kano Master on Kano.
Yes.
Has won, I believe, a couple of Battle Hardens, has top 8'd some callings. He has a resume, with that hero.
Fun fact, wasn't going to play Kano until the night before. Him and Majin both were not planning on playing.
No,
Kano.
They just brought the wrong dash cards.
They brought the wrong cards and weren't confident they could find what they needed by the next day. So they were like, I guess we'll just play Kano.
Yep, exactly. Next was Yuki Lee Bender on the non-comfort pick. That's Canadian national champion Yuki Lee Bender on Sir Bolton Breaker of Dawn, which no one saw coming. Former world champion Michael Hamilton on Bravo Showstopper. Pro Tour finalist Mara Ferris on Tromai. Legendary Leviathan and the mastermind behind Savage Feats, Ethan Van Sant on Levia, as per normal. That was awesome when it was announced that Ethan had made the top 8. He literally fell to his knees because he finally had pushed Levia to a top 8 of a major event, and it was just like obviously something that hit him hard.
Not to derail you too much, but for those who were in attendance, fantastic cosplayer because he debuted Dread Screamer cosplay, which was phenomenal.
Looked great, absolutely. We had World's top 8 competitor Matthew W on Dash. We had Raj Parikh also on Dash, and then we have Kid Wonderbread himself, Brody Spurlock, finishing first with Azalea. So for those counting at home, that's Azalea, 2 dashes, a Levia, Dromai, Bravo, Bolton, and Kano.
Yes, 7 different heroes in the top.
That's some fucking diversity.
and in my opinion, just sweet poetry that Brody ended up winning this on Azalea when we go back to the very beginning of the circuit when Realm partnered with MinMax in Chicago. I want to say in like March was the kickoff of the circuit. And it was right after Outsiders had released. So again, kind of a fresh meta at the time. So Brody comes in, wins on Azalea, and then we have a lot of things that happen throughout the course of a year. But to start with fresh meta, Brody wins on Azalea, and end with fresh meta. Brody wins on Azalea. It felt good. It felt like coming home.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, it was, again, if you look here, you have what I would consider 3 absolute specialists in their heroes with Ethan, Mara, and Peter. Then you have Michael, playing Guardian, which he's also well known for, and he played Icelander like it was Guardian most of the time too. So same thing. And then again, the loop of Brody winning on Azalea at the beginning and the Alpha Omegaing this thing and winning with Azalea at the end. Really, it was spectacular, and I loved every second of it. Had a blast with it. When we move into the 10K, I mean, it doesn't get much easier because we have Pheno Black playing Dromai. You have Nate Snyder on Kano, who has played Kano a ton. We have Ellie Bird on Bolton. Here we go again, I'm pretty sure working with Yuki on that deck. I think it was the exact same list. Pat Eschke playing Levia. Like, sure. Sounds great. Ryan Baker playing Phi. Sean Dhaliwal on Dromai, which again, a comfort pick for Sean.
Yep.
He knows what he's doing. Levi Rauch on Azalea. There we go again. And then Michael Feng on Bravo, which is funny because Michael actually played Phi in the 20K and got absolutely dumpstered, went 3-4 on it. And I talked to him afterwards because he was one of my opponents during the day too. And he's just like, nah, I'm not doing that again. And sure enough, he comes back with Bravo and just wins the 10K.
Yeah.
All right. That works too. So another murderer's row. And this time with 2 heroes that were not in the 20K top 8. One hero not in the 20K top 8 that was then represented in this one with Phi. We thought there would be a lot of Phi, right? And Phi was pretty well represented, but was not the most represented hero, or really even close to it, right? Because it was Bravo was top, and Dromai was behind it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I would still say close because we had a lot of diversity. So Bravo was the top, and if I remember correctly, please bear with me if I'm off by 1 or 2 on these because it's been a long weekend for me. But I believe it was Bravo had 17 of the 115 competitors. So he had 17 of the market share, and then I think Phi was a 13 count. So Phi was in third. You're right. It was Bravo, Dromai, and then I think Phi and Dash were both tied at 13.
I think they're both 13.
But that's still not far off, right? Like that's a very close, representation. And I was over the weekend, I was kind of describing that as the big 4, because that's what I expected. I also think that Phi would have potentially been more, but now that Icelander was gone, a lot of the Ninja folks were picking Katsu back up. So Katsu, I think, had 8 players.
I think it was
8. That eats into, the potential representation of Phi. But then after that, like once you got, past those big 4, everything else was wild. We had 8 Kanos, 7 Boltons. There was only like 4 Uzuris.
Only 1 Tech Levasan.
1 Tech Levasan.
There was more. There was like 2 or 3 Riptides.
No, there was 4.
Was it 4 Riptides? Jesus.
Yes. Now, they didn't do well in the 20K, but a good friend of the show, Tommy Fresh, shout out to him. He went 6-2 in the 10K and finished in the top 16.
On Riptide.
Yep.
We won't talk about Dagon's Riptide match. We're just going to go ahead and leave that alone. He's heard enough about it this weekend already. We don't need to reopen old wounds for him.
Oh man, I don't think I've heard this story. Will you tell me? Just kidding.
But again, and then the team sealed was, I believe, 27 teams. So just another 81 player
as well.
Yeah, and we got dumpstered real hard because our pool was not very good. We really we made my deck ass, and we should have made it wholesale ass and just tried to make the best 2 decks we could because there was not enough to make 3.
Okay, so one of the teams that made the top 8 was featuring Mr. Kano himself, Peter Budensick, and we were cracking up I loaned him the sleeves, and when I asked him how many sleeves he needed, because I was like, I don't know if I have enough for a deck. I think I only have 30 extra, and he went, no, that's all I need. And then that sparked my interest because I'm like, why do you need 30? And he's like, I'll show you. So I bring the sleeves over and we're sleeving it up, and he just points down to the 4 cracked baubles he's also running. And then it clicked for me what was happening, and that they built 2 turbo decks, and then poor Peter was just going to lose all day. But
Yep,
they made
pilot the
top
piece
8
of shit.
doing that.
Yep.
And it was funny because he was telling me the story when his team played against the team that had Lucas Oswald, who was also on the new Prism this weekend in the 20K and was doing relatively well in that. But he's like, yeah, I sit across Lucas Oswald and we start playing. And the first time I pitch a cracked bauble, he goes, wait. And he picks it up and he looks at it. And then he says, like, there's an epiphany. You can just see it across his face. And he goes, how many cards are you running? And he says, 30. And Lucas literally, he turns to both the people and he's like, we just lost this round, guys. Because he knew at that point the other two had no shot.
Yep, that was smart. And
now they did get vengeance, though, because the team that he lost to when they went to the top 8 was Lucas and that team again, because they knew the gimmick.
Yep.
So they planned accordingly, and they were able to close it out. But it's just funny how that works, right? You know, what you're describing is exactly what they did, right down to Peter running 4 cracked baubles.
We registered their pool, so I know what's in it because I wrote it all down. And they had exactly what you're talking about in spades, because they had like 14 Evos. And so they can go north-south with the Evos and only play the good ones. And then they also just had a boatload of red boosts. I think they had 4 red, just dive through data. Just here. And like 2 or 3 red expedites. Like it was built to go, okay, we can. And then they had 3 boom grenades, an overload script, and 2 red hadron colliders, I believe. And so it was just like, okay, here we go. This is a pile of shit. And we should have done the same thing in hindsight. It was the worst feeling ever. Was like, we're opening packs, right? In the middle, our middle C, Matthew Tickle opens, or the guy who was sitting in the middle of the time, which was Matthew Tickle, opens a pack and he hits a Terminator tank. We're like, fuck yeah, we fucking got this now. Like, Teklo is set. And then I go, wait a second. That's extended art. We can't play it. Fuck me. And Majin's just like, oh no. Would you rather have the extra $20? I'm like, no, I want to play the fucking Terminator tank. And he's like, man, that sucks. I'm like, yep, sure does. Wish that got registered in the pool so we could play that son of a bitch. Because, and then sure enough, in the last match of the day, Dagan gets Terminator tanked and dies.
Oh, of course.
Right. Yep. And so, okay. It just was not our day, like, whatsoever. It wasn't my weekend for playing, at least. It was my weekend for having a good time. And
everybody I talked to had a great time except for one person. There was only one series of complaints I heard, and it was from Gay Icon Mara Ferris.
Icon Mara Ferris? What was she complaining about?
Well, because I have to tell this story because it just fills me with such joy. For those of you who don't know, yes, she top 8'd. But she first was not planning on playing, right? Mm-hmm. She was going to show up, have a booth as an artist. And then after Worlds, she took on a bunch of commissions. And she's like, if I come and I'm at the booth, like, I won't be able to do any of these commissions anyway. But she really wanted to come because she knows what the Realm events are like. So she acquires an invite so that she can participate and decides to play. I believe she acquired hers from Michael Fang, is what she said, which is also funny in and of itself. So she plays. Day 1 is doing okay, but loses in the last round and in a rather tilting fashion, right? And she's not one that normally gets pretty tilted, but she gets up and leaves the convention center, just walks out. She's like,
she pieces out.
I need time. Comes back to everybody cheering because she made that 30-second slot. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll play tomorrow. Shows up the next day, right? Loses round 1.
Yep, immediately.
The draft. And then Kevin, who rode with her, basically had to like talk her into continuing to play twice because she kept wanting
She's
to
like, I'm dead. I'm dead for top 8. It's the same money for top 16. I should just stop playing.
Yep, just whatever. And then she just goes on a tear.
And then sneaks in at 8th.
Makes in the top 8 and did so on the back of an absolutely banger game to watch between her and Aaron Chance in that Draw My Mirror.
Yeah, the mirror.
But I mention it because that was like, I think literally the only complaints I heard all weekend. And it wasn't even like complaints. It was just her going like, I don't even know why I'm still playing. I don't know why I'm here. Oh, I guess I'll just not wait an event.
Fucking Mara. But the other one was the Budensick Raj matchup where Peter's pitch stack was 15 cards tall. Like, it was a monster pitch stack. And then he looks at the top card and he does and Raj is just like, that's I, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Shit. I was like, yep, okay, that's funny. I'm into this. But it was such a cool room, and GalaxyCon was happening beneath, outside of our the hall, just down the escalator. So we had cosplayers and all kinds of stuff, and like, so that was fun too. It was just a kind of a good coming together of all the different people that were there, and kind of honestly a lot of the best players in the world were just in the room, and household names galore. So as far as if you are following Flesh and Blood, I mean, obviously,
I would
none
definitely
of these are,
say a lot of the best players at least in the like North American region. There's a lot
in
of
this hemisphere,
really good European players that couldn't make it, and some in APAC as well. So don't take that as a slight if we say best players in the world and the European folks aren't there, but certainly North American players, when you talk about folks from USA, Canada, etc.
Yeah, there's even someone who flew in from Singapore. There was global representation for sure.
Yeah.
So it was not just North America, but it was the majority of it was North American. But it was, if you want to just start naming a list of the best North American Flesh and Blood players you can think of, almost all of them were there. So it pretty close. And that tells a lot. That tells how much respect the Realm has for running these events. Like, people trust them to run a great event. They don't disappoint. And so people know when they show up for these things, they're going to get an event that is well run, and an event that is that is catered to the player experience. And that's exactly what they got. And they were, again, everybody that I talked to was super happy the entire time. And I think a lot of it, so again, Keith and I actually had this conversation later. We kind of thought that some of that might just be because there was no ELO on the line, and people could come in and kind of go wild in a little bit and play some stuff that's a little off the wall, and not feel like they're sacrificing something to do it. And I thought that was actually a really intriguing point. What do you make of that?
I do think that was part of it, because when ELO is not on the line and you're not perhaps jeopardizing invites to other large events as a result of your play, it allows you to experiment a bit more, or play pet projects and not feel bad about it. I had a similar conversation with Keith, and the thing that I had said is that this event was in particular very cool because it was both high stakes and low stakes simultaneously. It's high stakes because there's big prize money on the line. There's still a PTI. There's the gold foil. There's all the cool stuff that the Realm threw in, like the bracelet and everything that you want from a high stakes event. But also, as you pointed out, no ELO on the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can be both high stakes and low stakes, and then that's like the perfect recipe for some of the best players in the world to either show up and just play their comfort picks or try their pet projects out. even while we were there at the event, I already have heard, I don't want to let any secret information out, so I'm not going to say what, but I heard several players also talking about like, hey, this is the hero I want to pick up during the holidays. Hey, this is the hero, me and my teammates are going to start testing on. The room was very much alive with like that feeling of experimentation and talking things through. And I I don't remember getting that vibe whenever I've been to like a pro tour event, or it certainly wasn't like that way at Worlds. Everything was just
No, more
serious
tense.
business,
Yeah.
right? And I get it. I fully understand it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that this this event was so unique because it was a high stakes event, worth showing up, worth trying hard and competing, but also a low stakes event because you weren't risking as much. It was low risk, high reward, if that makes
No,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. And you saw some of that with some of the hero picks. I thought that some of just the, how do you attack a fresh meta? 3 Lumina Ascensions. Okay. All right. That's an answer.
How do you
And
attack? How do you attack an opponent with
well,
2 Luminas and a bunch of sabers
and a Celestial Cataclysm to boot.
to end? Yeah,
That's a great chain ender, let me tell you. But and I think that that was a good way to put it. The room felt loose. It felt like, yes, there were stakes. Obviously, there were stakes. There's $20,000 in fucking cash. That's a stake. Well, it's many stakes. That's Omaha stakes worth stakes on stakes. But the the point being of all of that was that, yeah, there's a lot to play for here, but we also know that this isn't going to affect our standing within like the greater ecosystem of the professional circuit, so we can try to ball a little bit. And when that happened, I was just completely shocked. Like watching Lucas Oswald play Prism, I was just like, okay, what the fuck's going on? Let's look. And so I kind of watched for a little bit and was like, okay, there might be something here. I don't know how many cards off this is from like being real good, but he's gooning some people pretty good. Um, so man, I was kind of into that. But yeah, I mean, overall, I just thought it was so good, and I'm just happy that I was happy to see everybody there. There are way too many people for me to shout out. That I hung out with, or I spent time with, or I talked to, or anything else. I just want to go ahead and just make sure I say that every moment was treasured, every moment was valued. And I can't wait to see you all at the next one. I also want to make sure I give a shout out to the casters. Um, y'all did a hell of a job. The production was really good. I've gone back and watched some of the VODs. I know you hated your performance, and I'm here to tell
yeah.
you,
I got a lot I got to clean up, but that's okay.
I I thought you did really well,
I,
personally.
I will tell you, Sam O'Byrne. Listen, like
Sam,
Flake is Flake
I've got flowers for Sam. Don't worry about that part.
I'll always glow over Flake, but I want to give the special shout out to Sam, and I did it when I was there, but I want to do it again. Fantastic on the microphone all weekend long, but if you were not there at the event, what you need to understand is that Sam was also organizing so much behind the scenes. Like he was running around trying to make sure that deck lists were had and transitions were done, and he had pre-filmed a bunch of content that was playing during our transitions and downtimes, and he was like literally doing editing for that stuff every night. Like after he landed, he was doing
Yep.
it before the event started, and then even Friday night, Saturday night, he was tweaking things. He poured his heart and soul into this event, and it shows. And so I want to make sure that people understand, like, yeah, if you think I did a great job, great. I love you. I appreciate you. But like, Sam deserves a big round of applause for the work that he put into this event.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I feel like I told Sam this too, that I thought that when he did the calling indie, he was good. I enjoyed listening to him. He had some really good quips and one-liners. He was entertaining. He was vicarious. He was having, or not vicarious, that's the wrong word. Vivacious. He was having fun. It was lively and colorful. And now we take that and we pair it with how much his understanding of the game has grown. And now he's all those things with the expertise on top of it. And it is incredible how much he's grown in such a short amount of time into being a good caster. And he's just a great caster. He's just fucking good at it.
Yeah.
And the kid, I mean, I'm old enough to be his dad, I guess, but he can talk, obviously, but he can also inject an amount of pathos and an amount of meaning into the littler things now. And it's really showing through in his casting. And I was floored by how good he was. But I agree with you. Let's not lose sight of the fact that he put so much work into this, just across the board. And he was vital to the fact that this entire thing was a success, as were, the cosplay crew doing their job too with, Elaine, Carolina. The cosplay contest was great. The cosplayers looked amazing. Yeah. Rachel was, Max Ferocity's, there was steam shooting out of her.
Actual steam.
Like actual steam.
Again, if you were not there and you didn't get to see any of the video, the weapon actually had steam coming out of it. It was fantastic. Yeah, special shout out. Everybody involved, again, killed it. But special shout out to Elaine specifically, because if you don't know, she totaled her car earlier in the week. And if you've seen any photos, I felt her embodiment of Earth cosplay turned out very, very well. But what you have to understand is she was walking around on these platform shoes that were basically stilts all day, and was wearing a corset and was covered in paint and stuff. And that's on top of massive bruises that were covering her body. You just kind of didn't really notice because of the paint. And she had a broken nose all weekend. Yep. And then was still talking to everybody. She was basically in immense pain all weekend long. So special shout out to Elaine, because she fought through it. A lot of pain, and she sacrificed a lot to make sure that turned out well.
She is a champion, that is for sure. And we love her around here. She's the daughter we never had in a lot of ways, but I was glad she was okay, obviously. Yes. And that I'm just the entire time was do you need anything? Can I help? What can I do? She's like, no, I'm fine. Bull fucking shit. You are not fucking fine. Your nose was broke 5 days ago. And she described the accident to me and in the most Elaine way, just la-di-da-di-da-di-da, telling the story about these horrific injuries I obtained on the side of the road while waiting for a tow truck to take me to the nearest shit hotel. Yeah, and I'm just okay. And it was funny because some of the local people that were there from here were standing there while she was giving me the story, and they're just what the actual fuck? And I'm this is just an Elaine story. This is nothing. This is just what we hear from her. And her, just the resilience that she has, the resiliency, it's yeah, okay, bounce back, whatever, is always amazes me, because what the fuck? I would probably just be yeah, I'm going to go ahead and not show up with all my broken bones, and instead, take the time off I need to heal, instead of jamming myself into a corset and putting myself on, 5-inch heels. What? I ask politely most of the time. My friends make good choices. I think I've just given up with Elaine, though. It's just never going to happen. So why start now? But I really do feel that this was exactly the event that we've been hyping up, and I'm so glad that it came off like I thought it would. I mean, we had no doubts, but when it happens the way you think it's going to happen, it just has kind of a better feeling. You just feel yeah, I hyped the right thing, and that always feels good.
Wasn't just you. I also want to give a special thanks to Michael Feng, because leading up to the event,
oh man,
he was also
MV fucking P.
beaten the war drums and then showed up, and I didn't unfortunately get very much time to talk to him at all because the weekend was a whirlwind. But every time I did see him, biggest grin on his
Oh,
face.
yeah.
Dude just looked like he was having so much fun.
The absolute best dude. Like I enjoy Michael so much, and he was he was a hype machine for about a month, really, and I think it helped. I think it drew people in.
Yeah.
It's a lot of street cred when a Pro Tour champion is saying, "Hey, come here, do this thing," and that credibility is important. And last but not least, the last flowers to give, the Bartrams, the Realm crew. Like, I don't know what else to say outside of where do you go from here? Like, where's the? It's getting and it's getting harder and harder for them to top what they've done because they keep everything has gone to such a high level and a high quality in the production, in the events themselves, and it's starting to feel like until they're allowed a bigger stage with different levels with a different level of support, like a calling or something along those lines. I don't know what they do from here.
I don't need them to keep trying to top it. If they
Neither do
keep
I.
doing events like this, it will be the best thing ever for this game. But also, what happens when you keep trying to outdo yourself is eventually you fly too close to the sun, right? I
Sure.
don't need them to have their Icarus moment. I don't need this also to end up being their end game, right? The Realm cinematic universe needs to not keep chasing bigger box office numbers. They just need to keep putting out quality movies, if you will.
Yeah, you're right. And but it's you also, on the other hand, the people involved.
Yeah, I do. And that's why I'm
And
saying this, because sometimes they need to hear it. They won't listen to me.
they
So I'm gonna say
they
it.
absolutely will not listen to you. I I have hit this level where I understand that the question being when the question is asked of me, is this a bad idea? I know the difference between we've already decided to do this and honestly, do you think this is a bad idea? And it's based on the level of absurdity that something is, if it sounds super fucking absurd, they've already decided to do it and they're not looking for my input. They're looking for a slight amount of validation because they've already set the wheels in motion. At which point, yeah, sounds great. Not going to matter what I say anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, you know what? Much like you would cast for them on the moon, I would travel, I would hype up, I would do whatever they wanted for if they were throwing an event in a fucking landfill. I would say, yep, sounds great. They'll figure it out. And don't do that, Keith. Please, no. We're not playing fucking Landfill Flesh and Blood. I don't give a shit if you think that suddenly sounded like a good plan. It is not a good plan. Do not do that, by the way. However, there are a couple of things that we talked about this weekend, and I'm just like, yep, sounds great. Do it. Fuck it. Why not? And then sometimes it's like, an honest, okay, here's what I'm thinking. I don't know. And then I'm like, okay, this is real input. But that's the thing is they also fucking listen. And so when they are asking for that honest input, they take that feedback and they take it to heart and they make changes. They make meaningful changes, which is why they're as good as they are at these events and putting on a show for the people, for the players. Like they put events on for the players. And that is the most important part. They're incredible at it. They're best in class at it. And I'm just happy that I get to be associated with them in any way. Like, to be honest, I couldn't be happier. That's all I got for that. You have anything else about the Rumble that you want to talk about? You spent 40 minutes talking about it, so.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, obviously there's plenty more that I could say, but I'm thinking about my co-pilot telling me that they wanted to try to keep this short because he didn't want a 3-hour episode. So
listen,
Listen,
You're
I know
beat
that
to
we're a
shit.
Flesh and Blood podcast, but I want to highlight a couple of other things. One, the event I also think was in part a success because there were some other events that were going on there. So yes, Flesh and Blood had amazing events, big turnouts. 115 for the Invitational, 130 something I think for the 10K. Lots of teams for the Team Sealed. Inside events were firing as well, but and this is the reason I mention it. There were Pokemon events, Alpha Clash events. Um, I know there wasn't like any sanctioned events, but they were selling sorcery, and I saw a lot of people like picking that up and trying it. And the real reason that I mention it is because of the cross pollination. So some of the folks who showed up for the other things, especially the Pokemon crowd, I did see a few craned necks, if you will. Like, hey, what game are they playing? Especially the older ones, like the kids, a little bit less, but that I think matters, and I think that's a good thing for the game overall. And the other reason I want to mention other game-related stuff just real quick is that I genuinely appreciate everyone who came up and said that you love Logan and I's show, but I also genuinely appreciated the several people that approached Flake and I to say that, you loved Wampa Radio. That meant a lot. And I signed my first Star Wars Unlimited card this weekend.
Shout out to Ben.
Yeah, shout out to Ben. He brought the Gen Con promos of Luke and Vader, and I signed his Vader, and Flake signed his Luke. And it just, that one means a lot just because that game, obviously it's not out yet. It releases in March. And the fact that we have people already so invested in what we're doing over there to like care enough, like that meant a lot too. So I just wanted to say thank you because that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, well said. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about the least surprising news of the week, and that's that Ira is now a Blitz living legend. She crossed the Rainbow Bridge this weekend to Valhalla, and
She went to a farm upstate.
that's the other way to put it. But so Ira and Edge of Autumn, of all fucking things, are now no longer legal for Blitz tournament play as of December 8th. More importantly, for my personal validation and needs, she only finished with 573 living legend points, which is 4 short of Kasai. So Kasai is still top of the mountain. One of the things that, so I kind of want your take on this. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I have talked about it with other people, but I don't know if we've talked about this. Do you think they should release a new intro deck hero, like specifically intro decks that are sent as learn to play decks to LGSs? Do you think they should replace Ira? Because right now, like, let's say that you pick up the game, you pick up the welcome deck, and it's Ira, and you play Ira, you love Ira, you're like, I'm going to build this deck, and I'm going to play it in the next event, and you fucking can't. To me, that's a bad experience, but what's your thought? What is your take on that?
So this might be a bit of a hot take, but I actually don't think that they should. What I think that they should do in particular is even potentially sunset the idea of a welcome deck, because when the game was first being released and published and so forth, that sort of thing is very important to send out, because it's not just that you're trying to get people to learn your game, but you're also trying to get game stores to even understand what your game's about. Like it's serving a lot of purposes, but it's also very clear that that was early in the game's life and like the most introductory experience, because it wasn't even blitz deck size, no equipment beyond the weapon, that sort of thing. So for me, I just think that the emphasis, if you're going to put any sort of effort into something like that, the emphasis to me should be on just making better blitz decks, the pre-constructed ones, because that's your best intro experience at this point in the game's lifespan, at least in my opinion. Handing somebody a deck where it is still all the way blitz legal and actually has equipment is far better than just handing them a welcome deck. And I think that if anything, like if they want to say like, okay, well, we still want to have some available for stores to give away, well, then they should just find a way to allocate to stores some additional sealed blitz decks or something. Like they can figure out the logistics on that end, but that's the best way to fulfill that purpose, in my opinion. And it also doesn't put any additional stress on the development either, right? As far as like creating a brand new hero for a product that one isn't going to sell, but then also now you're going to have to support that hero. Like let's run the other way, right? Hypothetically, you make a brand new welcome deck hero and you ship it, and it's just like the Ira one. It's not even a full deck. It's like 30 cards or whatever. It's either got to be ultra generic like Ira was, or you're going to also have to start printing stuff for that hero. And if you're printing stuff for that hero, then you might as well just put that hero in a set and make that be part of your blitz decks, right? Like it writes itself, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that take is specifically hot or cold or lukewarm. I don't know. I just think that I know that a lot of people that still are active players in the ecosystem here started with the Ira Welcome deck. And that was, their gateway drug, right? And I worry that if that doesn't exist in that same sphere, that it could potentially just get kind of lost in the sauce a little bit. So I don't know. Like for me, I kind of feel like that the welcome decks are still important. We are still actually really, really early in this game. Like year 5 is next year. That's not. Yes, the 3-year mark is the bench, right? Yeah. If you get past year 3, your game has a shot. But year 5 is still infancy, really. And this is, I think, a very important year for Flesh and Blood. I think it's a very important year for LSS. I feel like going into this year, the way that the Living Legend system is kind of ramped up a little bit, we see more movement in it than we had prior. We're sort of heading into almost a soft reboot of Flesh and Blood, where a lot of the old heroes are going to be phase out to the Living Legend system, and so we're just going to be fresh going into year 6. So, like I said, it kind of feels almost like a soft reboot, and I think using that opportunity to kind of refresh the intro product makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that refreshing the intro product, if you will, makes sense. I just don't think that it needs to be a welcome deck specifically. That's why I was saying I think that it should just be more emphasis on creating quality like intro blitz decks that you can hand out where I'll put it another way, right? When you look at what it could be argued as another intro product that was released in Around the Table, right? Those are still, full-size decks with equipment and whatever, meant to bring new players into the game, albeit in a different game mode and a different feel. But that's the sort of thing that I would expect, not the Ira decks that had, wrong deck size, wrong deck limits in terms of like number of copies of cards, a hero you can't get anywhere else, no equipment, like. And if you're going to flesh all that stuff out, right, if you're going to solve all those problems, then let's be honest, you're making a pre-constructed blitz deck.
Sure.
So just make better ones of those, and then give, stores an easy way, even if it's, just 1 or just 2, a la like a Dory Reiner Classic Battles, if you will, but like give stores an easy way to order those the way that they would have ordered welcome decks.
Sure.
And have it for that purpose. Like that I'm okay with, but yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. It's an interesting discussion point from my point of view, with something that, I don't think that people really ever considered was what happens if Ira goes and she's gone. And we're also now knocking on the door with, it looks like from this list, Dash, Dorinthia, and Briar are all pretty high up there now, with Bravo being the only other one that's over 300. And then the only other one over the halfway point beyond that is Reinhardt. So we do have a couple of options here at the top to see maybe one other hero go or get close. And my guess is it would be Dash. But that's a lot of movement in that format. And so we've seen, like I said, we've seen a lot of turnover in the last, 2 months?
Yeah, we have.
In the game.
And
I think that's a good thing.
I was going to say, as you rightfully pointed out, though, we're also hitting the 5-year mark of the game, and it's about time that we saw some movement, realistically.
Right. Realistically, yeah. Like, he should have maybe moved a little faster. So the nudge, I think it's, again, I know we talked about this ad nauseum on Instant Speed too, but I think it's a good thing. Like, yeah. I honestly think that this movement is necessary and meaningful. So, yeah. I do want to keep this a little bit shorter, so we are not going to go into all of these listener questions, you psychopaths. So I'm going to kind of cherry pick one. Damn it, these are all kind of long to answer except for that one. Damn. Okay, well, we're going to have to do this one. When Flesh and Blood finally, this is Donnie K, by the way. When valued member of the Patreon, Donnie K, when Flesh and Blood finally gets a live action movie, because everything has a damn live action these days, mostly true, where would you cast Ryan Reynolds? I would cast him in the trash can. I don't think that he is anything in the Flesh and Blood movie.
Really?
I don't. I think that the only character now that even makes a little sense for a Ryan Reynolds type to play is maybe Brevant.
It's funny because that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say he is the perfect Brevant in my mind to be like a cocky, like
smarmy,
but like a narcissistic defender, right?
A Gaston.
Yeah, maybe. But I think that would be fine.
That's the only one that when I think through it, it's like maybe, but overall, now, I think that
this might be this is for sure going to be a hot take with you, because I know you won't like this idea. We don't get to get a lot of dialogue in terms of flavor text and lore stories and whatever from Reinar, which means my headcanon doesn't say he can't be funny. So we'll just green screen Reinar in, and Ryan Reynolds can do the voice.
No. No, just no. Not happening.
Oh, okay. We'll save him for the Earth Brute then.
Fine. Because that'll never fucking happen. Channel Mount Brute is not a fucking thing. Okay? We're not doing... Get that fucking Smucker's face off your fucking head. No. Absolutely not. I'm already mad that James White has, like, alluded to an ice ninja down the road. That is already upsetting to me.
No, that has me so excited.
Dude, no.
Listen, I wholeheartedly loved when the first Mortal Kombat came out, Sub-Zero, more than any other character. So I need a Sub-Zero in my life.
I mean, I played a ton of Sub-Zero, not gonna lie. That was probably the character I played the second most of. I played more Raiden than anything.
So here's the thing. I loved Sub-Zero, so I want that. But also, I, just from a design standpoint, start to get giddy when I think about the juxtaposition of a class that's designed to go wide and a talent that's designed to prevent
the tax
going wide. Well, and going wide specifically. So how do you mesh the two thematically, right?
That is interesting.
I'm with James. Like, let's make this Ice Ninja thing happen. I need Sub-Zero in my life.
So, okay, so new question. Across all Mortal Kombat games, who is your favorite character?
Across all favorite characters, Melina. I've got the most time on her. I'm never gonna be like, FGC good at a fighting game, but just in terms of like playing with your friends, I've got enough time on MK2 specifically that I am dangerous on Melina. And I pick her up pretty much every time a new Mortal Kombat game comes out. The one exception, the one person that has like a special place in my heart, but it's because of a very specific interaction, is there was a Mortal Kombat like anthology game where you could play as Rain, essentially the purple ninja, and his gimmick was that if you did a certain thing, he would like do this. You can't see it on the screen, but he'd like hold his hand up to the sky, and you'd call a lightning bolt down, and it did an incredibly like tiny amount of damage, but it was supposed to be a pop-up to set up your combos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Problem was, if you were a nerd who had no life, you could get the timing down of the pop-up, and so once you landed it once, you could time the bolt to strike when the person was landing to pop them up again.
So just juggle them.
Yeah, and it took, give or take, 41 bolts to kill somebody start to finish, and I know this because my good friend Jeremy broke a controller when I did it to him.
41 is so fucking many.
Yeah, because you have to sit through 41 lightning bolts to do anything. So,
correct.
He holds like a special place in my heart.
Mine was always
Melina is my go-to.
Mine was always Kung Lao, because I felt like bisecting people with a hat.
Yeah, the hat
is pretty great. Like, kind of love it. That's kind of, I mean, come on, it's funny as hell. But you know what? I think that we are going to keep this right around an hour and get out of here. How do you feel about that?
I am shocked. I mean, I feel good about it. I am legitimately tired, but
yeah, I'm beat. I know we wanted to make sure we talked about the event, and we sort of, and this goes back to the whole episode streak thing again. It's this is unhealthy for both of us to be doing right now.
What are you talking about? I'm losing my voice, and it's 11:36 p.m. where I'm at, and I've been traveling all day, and I've got a conference that I have to attend all this week. So why wouldn't I be here with the best co-host I could ask for, talking about the game that I love? There's nothing unhealthy about this at all.
Not in that respect, but in the respect of it's 11:30. You've been traveling all day. You traveled all day yesterday. Come on, man. But for me, it's I got home at like 6:30. It's 10:30 now. I had a bunch of stuff to try to get done even before recording this. I fly out to Vegas on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's like I get a day.
But you get a lot of juice this week because the Packers won.
Oh, I'm juiced, baby. Like, that was beautiful. Like, I don't have any special animosity towards the Chiefs, but I do like when a team comes into Lambeau and gets, and they came in, I think, with the expectation this is a game that they're going to win. I mean, and every team does, right?
Yeah.
But it seemed like they maybe took them a little for granted, and they went, oh shit, when they got down, 14-3. And had to try to force it back, but Green Bay like just buckled up and did the job. But the last like 3 minutes of that game were some of the worst officiating I've ever seen in my life. Like,
just straight chaos.
What the fuck is going on here? There were so many blown calls and they happen on both sides. And yes, the Green Bay pass interference was 100%. He fucking interfered with them. That was cut and dried.
Dude, he mugged him. Like when
he
that
literally did.
With, I'm sure that like he had the guy's wallet.
He 100% had his wallet, and had already sent his ID off to some hacker farm. But the play before that, you had a forward progress stopped in bounds, and they stopped the clock. That makes no sense. And then there was the Mahomes is in bounds, progressing the ball forward and gets hit, and they flag it as a late hit. I'm like, they flag it as a late
hit, and also it was barely a hit anyway.
Right, it was a nudge out of bounds with a shoulder. It's like
I'm pretty sure I hit somebody harder on the airplane today trying to deplane, and by accident.
It's fair. So yeah, that game was weird.
Yeah, the game was weird.
But like Green Bay did play really, really well.
Green Bay did play well, and as somebody with no skin in either race, I will say that Green Bay should probably be pretty happy with the strides that Jordan has made this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I was not a fan of him at the start of the year, and he's growing on me.
Now he looks confident. He gets the ball out. He's making the right reads. It's everything you want to see him grow into. And that's fantastic. And the funny part is Green Bay does not play a team with a winning record the rest of the year. They could backdoor into the playoffs pretty easily now.
Yeah.
That's a thing. I mean, that's a hell of a lift for a young quarterback and basically a preschool for receivers. And I don't know. I'm excited by that. But let's not talk football. That might just drive some people away. Instead, you know what? We should probably thank our patrons. They are the people.
Yeah, I started this conversation with the intent of you looking up the patron list. But
yeah, that's you. But you started getting me talking about Green Bay football, which is going to take my entire.
Yeah. Well, I know all of the blood drained from your head.
Listen, it has to go somewhere, and I was born with two heads. So it's not like you were talking about Kasai again, which would have been more blood draining, honestly. But
well, yeah, because she's got blood on her hands.
Oh my God, yes, she does. Hold please. Let's get this set up correctly. So we think
drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
What's that?
What? Said was Kasai drafted by the Green Bay Packers?
If that's the just in, then I'm in for it. We're gonna thank our associate producers. We have Alex, Andy, C-Dubs, Sindra, Donnie K, Kenny, and the Salty Sea Cat. When we're going to thank Jesus, listen to me. We're gonna thank
like casting.
Oh, I know, right? We're going to thank our executive producers on up. We have Blaze Storm, Dom, Jacob, Lance Goodthrust, Matt Tutokes. Matt's a fucking legend, by the way. He knows why, but Matt's a fucking legend. Poxonus, valued member of the Patreon. Poxonus, you did it, buddy. You're a valued member. It's there in black and white. It's on wax. Valued member of the Patreon, Poxonus. Papa Mike, Philip, Rich, Taylor, and Trevor. If you are interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/Flesh and Pod. Links in the show notes, yada, yada, yada. There are some number of fucking tiers. I don't know. Pick one. Preferably one that pays me, I think. I like those better. But, yeah, if you want to talk to us or get a hold of us in any way, shape, or form, you can always send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at fleshpod. The best thing to do is just come into the Discord.
Open to the public. You don't have to be
to the public. And links in the show notes. Just join up. You don't have to be on the Patreon. It costs $0. There's like one locked channel that's Patreon only. Everything else is just right there for you if you want it. And then also, getting a hold of us is super easy because we both have our Discords open to people that we share a server with. So join the Discord and come hang out. Charmer, where can they find you?
In Washington, D.C. for most of this week. So if you're a listener and you're out here, say hello if you see me.
Okay.
And also in the Discord, on Twitter, all those places you said.
Yeah, that too.
But
you can also just find my personal Twitter is at Logan Peterson. And then honestly, the place to find me is the Discord. So if you have questions, concerns, comments, anything like that, I also respond to the YouTube comments. And if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, do it, I guess. I'm probably going to do some giveaways soon that are going to YouTube subscribers that are expensive. So you might want to subscribe to the YouTube portion of the show. Just going to throw that out there. Just click the bell notification thingy and subscribe or whatever the thing is. I don't know. That is not the best way to sell that. But, it is what it is. I got nothing else. Derek, final thoughts, final words?
No, man, I'm already snoring.
Hard same, buddy. Well, thank you very much.
Wait.
Wait.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
We almost made it a whole episode. I can't believe that we didn't mention Matt DeMarco, author of The Stoic.
Well, you just did.
All right, now we're good.
Okay, well, pleasure as always, and no guarantees on seeing you next week because that's 105 in a row, and we're playing with house money now. So, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Bye.
Bye.
There we go. I actually went and applied to be part of the Judge Network